All right, we are live. Our second. Oh, I got a preparation. All right, we are our second REIA virtual, and I'm hoping everyone goes well. Everyone for joining us tonight. Let me go to our schedule. We're going to start out with property profile. This is a property ring that you recently got in selling. If you and you want to so we can highlight our upcoming meeting, please go do that. We also have a spotlight. I just now I'm unmuted. Now I'm going to go. Okay. Perfect. All right. Now this is the third time. We are live. This is our virtual meeting area. You can tell that we glitches as my technology ability. But thank you for joining us tonight. And still getting your monitors. All right, let's try. Maybe that. I'm getting feedback. Go here. Hopefully you can be patient with me. Let me make sure. Okay. This is better. Let's see if we can get started. We are live. This is the REIA Network virtual meeting. Our attempt at this. Hopefully everything will go well. A little bit of a round start. But let me I hope everyone is doing okay. I hope everyone is safe and healthy. Talk quite a few of you. So thank you so much for joining tonight. I want to go to tonight. This is a typical where we're in person. We're going to start out the profile. This is a property in Silver Spring, Maryland. We recently put under contract during this COVID time. We're hoping to settle hoping to go to at the end of the month. I just know you have that you want to have one of our monthly profile. Please us. This could be I renovate, sell, a rental property. This could be a property that went very well. This could be a property that didn't go quite as well. Just let us know. We'll be happy to interview you and highlight one of your properties in the meeting. We also tonight have member spotlight. Norm, many of you know, that's been attending Washington REIA for quite a long time. He's got some great insights on himself and how he got involved in real estate. So we'll listen to that portion of the meeting. And then finally, tonight, as we have said, I've asked 3 different members. I've asked Dominic Gore, Margaret Babington, and also Norm to just share their insights on what they're doing right now to keep their businesses moving forward. Norm is going to represent the landlords for us tonight. Margaret has a 10-member team as a real estate agent here in the area. And then Dominic is a local investor that also is involved in the property management business. So they're going to give us kind of what they're doing to keep going, keep their businesses moving forward. So sit back and relax and listen to this portion. Stay with us. Feel free to make some comments, and also we're here to take your questions. We'll be monitoring those both on YouTube and Facebook. So submit your questions, and we will try our best to answer those as we wrap up this meeting tonight. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and let's get the meeting started.
Hey, I want to present to you the deal of the month. This is a property in Silver Spring, Maryland. It sits right on Rock Creek Park. In fact, my son calls it the cottage. And what I like about the cottage and what I like about this property is it offers multiple exit strategies. You can buy, renovate, and sell a house like this, or if you can't get the price that you want right now in the marketplace, you can hold this property as a long-term rental. And that is just a win-win. And that's the kind of properties that I'm really out searching for right now. Multiple exit strategy. So you're not caught in anything if the market doesn't allow you to sell that property right now for a profit. Now, this property was bought. It needed quite a bit of work. It's a small house, as you can see, but it still needed kitchen, bathrooms, windows, siding, some roof work, some landscaping. It needed quite a bit of work. I bought this property and I listed it right before all the government shutdown. So that weekend that everything was shut down, I put this house on the market. And quite honestly, I wasn't sure what the result would be. But being vacant and being kind of early in on this process, if you will, I got multiple showings. And in fact, I got in a bidding war. Oh, as investors, we love bidding wars. And I literally got $11,000 over the asking price and no closing with a relatively quick closing turnaround time. This should be closing here at the end of the month, God willing. So the house was sold for $350,000. It was purchased in the high hundreds, and there was quite a bit of renovation work needed. But again, it still falls into my line of profit where I'm looking to make 40, 50, $60,000 on a typical renovation project in this general DC area. Now, again, you can make more depending on the price of the property that you're selling. You can certainly make less, but if you can target that 40, 50, $60,000 profit range once everybody is paid in the greater DC area, you're doing pretty well. You can do the math. It doesn't take much to have a pretty good year. But again, this is a perfect property in my mind for the times that we're in. A property that you can buy, renovate, and sell. And again, if the market slows down, if you can't get the prices you want, you can certainly rent this property, make the numbers work, and come out in a year or two and still maybe even do a little bit better than you can right now. So the deal of the month, a little property in Silver Spring. Doesn't look like much, but it's going to generate a very nice profit as we get to closing later in the month. Again, we're out there. We're looking for opportunities. If you know of anybody looking to sell, if you have properties you want to wholesale, we're open for business. And I hope this gives you an idea of a very typical deal in the DC metro area. Talk to you soon.
Right. Well, welcome everybody. As many of you know, since January, we've been trying to highlight one of our members just so you can get to know them a little bit better. It's always good to do business with people that you know. And today we have, this month, we have Norm Veenstra, and Norm is going to share with us a little bit about himself. And Norm, just let's start it out. How'd you get involved in real estate investment game?
Hi, John. Thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for all you've been doing for years with REIA. It's been helpful, certainly to me personally, in terms of being better at staying focused on a regular basis. Many years ago, I think it would be 1999, I got lucky and fell into an opportunity to buy a 4-unit next door to the house I lived in. And this is in Logan Circle in DC, which around that time was a much different neighborhood, as some people can speak to as well.
Right.
I didn't know what I was doing. I came from a family with a little bit of real estate. My dad was a real estate agent, and he was also in factory and warehousing as his main job, but not from an investment point of view, just had been exposed to it a little bit. And at that time, I was in the service industry. I ran a venue, and so I knew people that needed cheap places to live. So I was like, well, I'll never get a chance at controlling and owning the place next door a second time. That doesn't happen twice.
Sure.
So I figured out, I worked with a mortgage guy back when there were a fair bit more freelance mortgage agents back in those days, pre 2008 and so forth, and was able to come up with the means to buy the place next door. It needed some love, to say the least. There was one unit that was not inhabitable, and I inherited one Section 8 tenant who was there for a long time, and she was fine. And then over time, we just slowly fixed up. Every time someone would leave, we'd fix up the unit a little bit, and I still have that place today.
Oh, wow.
And the house I used to live in next door, I held on to those as part of my ability to survive. So yeah, I fell into it in '99, and then over time had some other opportunities come up, and the appeal of working on sites that were in terrible condition or worse spoke to me the way that buying a British import 12-inch was when I was 20 in college radio and years before.
Right.
I to this day can't explain that, other than it felt something where, like, hey, this is not being used, and if we do X, Y, and Z, it can get used again.
Right.
So a lot of what I've gone after over the years has been both residential, commercial, have been these pretty messed up buildings.
Okay, so that kind of answers the next question. Obviously, you're a landlord, and you also do some buy, renovation, and sell too on different sites.
I've been very lucky with over the years of meeting a couple of really good builders, and then also other folks that do what we all do. And as a result of those connections, I'm very pro partnerships, and had done a couple of sites where it was a little bit of remodeling here and there, and then held it on as a rental property, but then fell in with Betty Weiss in 2014, and we did a number of gut job full renovations together, and continued to do so. So I learned more about that. In some ways, I'd done a little bit more with commercial before doing this, and then a long time ago, I got really lucky and was able to buy a piece of land and did a 2-unit condo ground up construction. Again, it was all just about timing and right place, right time kind of thing. So I've learned different types of product just by kind of jumping in and trying to do it.
Right. Right.
And then I'm at a point now where I know what I like to do and have skills at, and what I don't really want to touch. Not that there's anything wrong with it, it's just not my forte and so forth.
Right.
I don't go on site and try to pretend to be able to help with hammers, nails, painting, any of it. I'm completely horrendous. The 4-unit next door was the gift of learning that early on, where I tried to fix some windows and caulk some stuff, and I literally would break more than I fixed. So then I focused on planning and so forth.
Getting on a little more personal level, obviously, background there, I see it looks like some albums and a lot of music, different things. So I'm guessing hobbies, you're heavy into music, I'm guessing.
Yeah, the music has been a big part of my whole life. I fell into college radio when I went to school. I went to college in Pittsburgh in the 80s, and I fell in with the college radio station there. And then I ended up in the music business as a result of that experience, and moved here to DC in 1990 to be a part of the management staff at the 930 Club.
Oh, great.
I helped run for many years, and that was a big part of my life and who I was at that time. And I still do a little bit of consulting for them on real estate issues to this day. They're a client of sorts, which has been a great simpatico relationship. So yeah, I moved here in '90 and did that kind of work for a long time, and then over time, as I mentioned, I had situations fall in front of me, and I took advantage of some of them. And then in 2007, went full time into just working for myself, being a real estate developer, investor, property owner, landlord, what have you. I have an agent's license that I occasionally practice as a commercial agent. If a person comes and looks at one of my properties, but they're not a match for me, but they have a cool concept, I try to find a place somewhere else. But yeah, the music parts, it's still really huge for me. I've been in the same band for almost 30 years now, a band called Tone.
You can show your shirt. I can see it.
I'm wearing the colors here. A couple records ago. I'm a little bit of a different individual relative to why some of us get into this. I have a great significant other partner, but I've never had kids or anything, so I don't necessarily have some of the same economic or legacy pressures. And so what I choose to do now, hopefully it doesn't sound narcissistic, but the band is certainly part of why I do what I do, because it gives me freedom and control of schedule.
Sure.
And I do a lot of music and arts advocacy stuff here in DC, through my own band or through other folks that are in DC bands. We try to make things happen with different venues here in town. I've helped support certain venues. And then I have some arts stuff that I'm involved with too. I have a small art gallery here in Columbia Heights where I live, and have facilitated having a couple other galleries as tenants at some of the places that I'm co-owners on and so forth. So,
that's great. How about getting out of DC? Where do you like to go for vacation when it sounds like you're pretty busy, but when you get a few days off, where do you like to head?
Well, a couple of answers to that. There's a phenomenal music festival that happens, and hopefully will again, happens in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah, 2023.
Yeah, it just got canceled. It would have been in March a couple of weeks ago. There's a really great festival called the Big Ears Festival that happens in Knoxville, Tennessee. That's been going for 10, 12 years. I only discovered it about 3-4 years ago, but that's become a put it on the calendar every year kind of thing. It's really you shut off everything, shut your phone off, and deep induction. And my significant other is from Budapest, Hungary. So I've gone there a number of times now, and that's really enjoyable. It's a much different place, very old Europe. I've been to Europe a bunch of times. My mother is from Luxembourg, another old Europe, smaller country. So I've done some time over there, and there's places I still haven't seen and places I'd like to go over there.
So, because you've been attending for a number of years, a lot of new folks walk into our doors at REIA, wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, if you will, ready to conquer the world. From your experience, and again, all of our experiences are different. That's why I like to ask this question. But if someone's kind of thinking about getting into the real estate investment game, and again, it's vast and a lot of different ways to kind of come into it, but words of wisdom, what would you tell them maybe to focus on, or any kind of words for the new investor?
Well, I will say that in a two-part answer briefly is some of what I have learned and done, I've learned by jumping in, and sometimes it's cost me a bunch of money, expensive grad school in a different way, doing a project and not having it pay enough at the end of the day. Sometimes if you have an opportunity to jump in, either by having a mentor or being an employee to somebody who's doing it, or JV in a minor way, if you have an opportunity to jump into a type of project that you think you're interested in, you can learn. Do so cautiously. Don't suddenly be like, oh, I've got $100,000 and I'm going to do multi-unit. You've never done it before. If there's a way to jump in, to force yourself to get in the trenches of whatever it is, that was helpful to me in the past. But at the same time, something you have constantly remind us all of is figure out your focus. Try to read as much as you can about these different opportunities, how to get into, whether it's multi-unit investing or single family buy and hold for rentals, or single family and sell, or wholesaling, or going. Read, because there's so many resources out there, books and online. Read and see what starts to tickle your own interests, or what you think you might be good at. And John, something you taught me quite well a number of years ago is just get good at your elevator pitch, of knowing, there are 50 different things you can do in real estate, but here's the 2 or 3 that I think I'm most in. And you're not going to figure it out in your first week of doing this. And if your entire goal is, I want to get into real estate because I want to make a bunch of money, you need to read some more. It's a bunch of us that have done this, and maybe we have some checks coming in and we make some money, we make a living, and we're our own boss. Sure, that's all true. But we've also lost a bunch of money. It's there are ways to avoid that.
And finally, 10 years from now, where do you see yourself?
Hopefully working less, spending more time in Europe, and I mean months at a time. Dual citizenship is a future goal. And still having some of the properties I care about and like, good tenants, and hopefully put out a couple more records.
Playing music.
We're working on our 8th tone. My band's working on our 8th record now, writing and getting ready to record. It's
great. So it sounds like investing in real estate, traveling, and playing music. How's that sound 10 years from now?
Yeah, and being involved in the presentation part of, like, whether it's our own shows or the art shows we do here at my gallery and other galleries I'm involved in. So,
great. Yeah. Well, Norm, throw out a contact number or an email for folks if they want to get in touch with you, if they want to bounce some ideas off you. What's good contact information for you?
My direct desk line is 202-667-9090. And if I'm not at my desk, it automatically forwards to my cell. It's 202-667-9090. And it's norm@n12development.com. That's the letter N, the number 1, number 2, development.com. It comes from my first sites that we spoke about were at 12th and Vermont. And I was calling up vendors. That's Norm over on 12th. And
that's great.
That's how it's
Norm, we appreciate. Thanks for the time. And those of you that are watching this, again, tap Norm. He's just full of resources, and I know he'll be more than happy to share a few minutes with you if you have something for him. So Norm, thank you. We look forward to seeing you in person, hopefully soon. Take care, and we'll talk with you soon.
Thanks for the opportunity, John, and all you do with REIA and your constant diligence to keep us all engaged. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Norm.
Take care.
Hey, everybody, this is John Peterson with Washington REIA. I hope everyone out there is staying safe and doing well. Thank you so much for joining us. We are attempting our second virtual meeting for Washington REIA. And again, we thank you so much for joining us. I've asked a few people, as you can see on the screen here, to offer some of their insights. One of our goals for this month's meeting was just to give you a sense of what is going on out there on the street, if you will. I know some of you have been calling me and emailing me and asking me kind of what my sense is, what's going on with the real estate market, how are investors reacting to it, how are we dealing with getting some aid maybe from our banks if we own rental properties, are our tenants paying us? Just a lot of unknown questions out there. And the biggest challenge for all of us certainly is the unknown. We don't know when all this will pass. I know all of us have been reading, but it's really hard to know when all of this will pass. So again, I just wanted to give you guys a sense of what other people are experiencing. Before I start any of this, last month, we talked about a couple, 3 keys, and I just want to bring one into play here that, at least in my life, in my business, it's helping me, although it's a real struggle. And that's just kind of our mental outlook, just trying to stay positive, trying to move forward, trying not to think of what ifs, trying not to look too far ahead, and just dealing, obviously keeping our family safe, and just doing the things that we can do to move us forward. Getting a lot of sleep sounds silly, but getting educated, taking positive steps toward anything that we can do to keep our businesses forward. Those of you that have been through a few of these disruptions in the market understand that it's important to survive. That sounds simple, but survive this pandemic, if you will, health-wise and financially. And then on the other side, there's going to be a lot of great opportunities that we're going to be addressing and we're going to be trying to take advantage of. So again, thank you for joining us, and I look forward to hearing the perspectives from some of our panel. On the panel today, I have asked a realtor, someone that has a very thriving practice here in the area, Margaret Babington, here on our left, to share with us some of her insights. I've also asked an investor, and again, these folks on the panel, they wear different hats. I've just asked them to wear a specific hat today, but they can answer any of these questions that we might have for them. Also asked Dominic Lohr. He's an investor down in Southern Maryland, also a builder. Dominic and I have done a number of deals together, and he is very active also in property management, so maybe gives us some insights on that. And then Norm, all of you know Norm. Norm is a builder, a developer, an investor, a landlord. He wears, again, a lot of different hats, and he's going to share with us some of his perspective as he's out in the marketplace. So let me start with Margaret. Again, I've written down a few questions, but certainly, Margaret, feel free to talk about anything you like here. The first thing is, as you're out there and as your team is out there with Compass as a realtor, just give us your sense of kind of the overall real estate market. What are you seeing, and how are you guys kind of moving forward, if you will?
Sure. First of all, thank you, John, for inviting me. I really appreciate it, and good to talk to everybody about this. I'm on Zoom and Hangouts all the time now. So yes, supply and demand are down significantly. The good thing is housing is a necessity. So the people who have to move still have to move. And, you know, if you don't have to move, people are putting it off. So that's really the name of the game. I personally sold my own house during this
Wow.
season. So I've moved twice. So just because I had to. Housing is a necessity. So we're still working.
So clearly, as far as like buyer traffic and some of your listings that your team has, are you guys seeing people kind of come out on the weekends? Or are you doing more, obviously, virtual showings? How is that kind of working out in the marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, our industry has completely pivoted, shifted, and we're doing everything differently. It's a lot of virtual showings, we offer a virtual portfolio, walk through 3D tours, like kind of like a dollhouse where you do that. We do live FaceTimes, depending on, the individual. So we've completely shifted a lot of video. So we're getting, you have to adapt, if you don't adapt, you die. So we are adapting. I have a large team of 10 people. So we're adapting and doing the best we can, but we're being safe too. It's really important. I mean, number one,
Do you think some of these things, as we walk through this, and again, nobody knows exactly when this, kind of back to normal will be, and we don't know what normal will be, but do you think some of this technology will stick around? I mean, clearly, some of the virtual tours, they've been out there a little bit, but now that we're forced to use some of those things, do you think you'll continue to use that as we kind of walk through this? I mean, walk out of this, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, I think the industry had to change dramatically, very quickly. We're talking mobile closing, e-signing. It's really an inspection or digitized, and then we do a virtual meeting. We do a Zoom call to go over the paperwork. So you're actually not losing that face-to-face. That's so important because there's a high trust sale. But we have completely changed. Some of the technology is still clunky, honestly, like the e-signing and the rules, but people are loosened up the rules. I have one agent that's a power of attorney, which was a no-no, right? Before you were too close to the deal, but they're in Hong Kong and they're buying and they need a power of attorney. So one of my agents is going to be their power of attorney. So yeah, I think the industry will adopt some of these.
So if you had an overall assessment, I mean, we're in the middle of obviously a spring market. Coming into the year, the market looked pretty good. Rates were good. Supply was still a little bit limited. Prices were aggressive or good, certainly. So if you had to just 1 to 10 this spring market, 10 being just things flying off the shelf, are you think we're in kind of a 5 or a 6 where business is being done, but it's just a little bit slower?
It is being done. Again, I have a large team working in different neighborhoods. As you know, being a Washingtonian yourself, it's hyper local. So it really depends on the neighborhood, the product, and the demand, supply demand. So it's hyper local. We'll have multiples going on right now in one, and then we have a listing that's sitting in another. So it's hyper local, as DC has always been. I do think there's going to be a pent-up demand. So people who do not need to buy or sell, or don't have a necessity like I did need to sell. So if you don't, they're going to wait. So they're going to be calm.
Yeah,
then it's going to be a pent-up demand, and it's going to be really busy. So
that was kind of my final, not final question, but final thought was, are you seeing, I've seen in my own neighborhood that people that were thinking about selling in the spring, they don't necessarily have to, maybe they're retiring or they want to downsize or job location, certainly. Are you seeing some of those people just take their house off the market and saying, hey, we'll just wait a little bit, see where the climate is, and then put the house back on the market June, July, August, whenever that may be?
Yeah, and we're saying go ahead and do that. Let's be safe. This is a very unusual market. If you don't need to buy or you don't need to sell, let's just wait and get through this red zone, those peaks, and see that curve coming down, because safety is number one.
Well, that's helpful. And again, if you're listening to this or watching this, as she said, business is being done, and I've seen that in my own business. It's much slower. I'm not, juggling 80 different things certainly, but we are trying to move forward, and that's a good perspective. So let's shift a little bit. Dominic, as I said,
Yep.
Dominic is a builder and an investor. What are you seeing in kind of the investor arena, if you will, that a lot of us are in? Are you personally still looking for opportunities?
Every day, every day. And I use my sphere of influence mostly than anything else, because marketing. I know a lot of investors spend a lot of money on marketing. I still think it's homegrown in every way possible. But I'm seeing more beginner investors out here make major mistakes and buying things that I would never in a million years consider buying. But they're doing it anyway, and they're going to closing and coming out of pocket most times. So
Okay.
it's getting harder and harder to find a deal where we can actually make some money or partner up on a deal right now. So, but we're still working at it. So it'll come around.
And I know in our business, our renovation work that we're doing, we're obviously trying to be safe, and we're trying to move people into the projects, kind of one subcontractor at a time. Are you seeing kind of the same thing, like, where you bring the carpenter in, let them finish, bring the painter in, let them finish, instead of trying to juggle things, all at
Right
once,
now,
trying to
right,
be a little bit slower.
well, right now, most of the contractors are begging for work right now.
Okay.
A lot of projects have been put on a slow burner right now. So if they can get anything right now, they're willing to jump in and finish everything they can.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a really good contractor that reglazes tubs and tile, and in certain renovation projects where it's just dated or it's just worn out, we can get away with, instead of ripping it all out and starting over, we can bring him in and he can reglaze it, and it looks really good. And usually I'm out a week and a half, 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks. So I always kind of get ahead of it. I called him the other day and he says, "Yeah, I can start tomorrow." So he was like ready to rock and roll. So as he said, some of the contractors are a little slow because people are putting some things off.
But
How about kind of the capital out there? You're seeing private lenders and hard money lenders and different people still out there willing to lend?
I must get 3 or 4 phone calls a week of people looking to
Okay.
lend hard money. That doesn't seem to be the problem. That's not
Okay.
the route that I like to go, but it's available.
Sure.
It's definitely available. There's no reason to use banks or anybody right now unless you get a better interest rate.
Okay.
But to go back a couple steps real quick, I'm starting to see experienced investors go into neighborhoods that don't have the comps, but they're doing bump ups and bump outs because they're trying to change the game a little bit in these neighborhoods. So it's a gamble, but I'm starting to see experienced investors do things that I kind of surprising actually.
Okay. And so it sounds like too, when you're saying, deals are always, I mean, ever since I began investing in real estate, finding deals is never been easy, right? I mean, that's always kind of the core of the business. But are you seeing any sellers or wholesalers being a little more flexible on price right now?
I'm starting to see them come down a little bit, but their prices are still
Okay.
way too high. I mean, I'm looking at deals that they're sending to me constantly. There's no money to be made.
Okay.
There's no deal there. So
Okay. Well, I think that will change. I think as we come out of this and sellers want to sell and wholesalers want to move some product, you'll start seeing some pretty good opportunities. Um, all right. Well, it sounds like again you're moving forward. You're being particular in anything that you pick up. How about on the property management side? I know you are involved with a good sized brokerage down in Southern Maryland. You guys manage a lot of properties. How is that going? Are renters being able to pay their rents?
we've come across a few that are looking for a way to stretch it out a little bit, but what we keep trying to tell them is that you're 2, 3 months down the road when this all gets better, they're going to have a balloon payment. So we're trying to tell them to make any payment right now, but that's only a handful. Mostly everybody's still making their payments
Well,
on
that's
time.
good. That's good. And from my perspective, it seems like people can make that April payment. Margaret, I know you're a landlord. Norm, I know you're a landlord. Where I'm seeing a little bit of struggle. We'll go over to Norm here in a minute. Where I'm seeing struggle in my own portfolio is my commercial. I own a few commercial buildings, and some of those folks are really hurting. Unfortunately, I have a restaurant that's suffering bad. that we're working with. And then I had an event planning business that was a great tenant for many years. And I got the surprise call that not only they're not going to make the payment, but they're bankrupting their company because basically everything has closed. All their projects this year have been canceled. And so they're kind of using this way to, for lack of a better word, kind of play the game a little bit. They make a lot of money, but they're using it as a way to negotiate with lenders and landlords, different things. But
It's funny you said that about commercial, because we have a couple commercial spots right now that the owners are willing to lend prospective tenants money to build out their spot, bring in a business, just so they can have us, just so they can get some rent moving.
right.
That's pretty interesting in itself, right there.
Yeah,
It
it is.
says a lot.
So let's move over to Norm. Norm, I know you wear a lot of different hats, as all the folks do here in the panel. I've asked you kind of from a landlord perspective, but certainly anything else that you're involved with. What are you seeing kind of out there in the market? I believe you have a restaurant as a tenant too. Is that right?
I'm landlord with some business partners to a couple of different restaurants here in DC. And
Okay.
to pick up on Dominic's last point, I might very well be in that position myself, where I become the lender to a potential tenant, help them with their TI component, because we were right at the inside the 20-yard line, inside the 10-yard line on signing a lease right at the beginning of March. And I don't want to lose them because they have a good concept and it's a good fit for the particular space that we've been trying to fill. So I can relate to that. With a couple of partners, I'm landlord to a couple of different restaurants here in Columbia Heights and Petworth here in Washington, DC. And we tried to get a little bit ahead of the curve in anticipation of what we expected our tenants to come asking for, especially our best tenants, because we have a couple of restaurants that have been quite successful and are really good tenant operators, and they become friends. And maybe that shouldn't matter, but it does to me. And I just as soon do what we can. And so we had some calls with a couple of sites long before April 1st rolled around. So we were able to say to them, like, hey, don't worry about April, we'll deal with it later. So they could at least focus on either their own retooling. In the case of Timber Pizza, for example, they were really trying to get up to speed with their new operation where they're open again, takeout only, call it in, that kind of thing.
Right.
So if we got out of their way, then they could focus on that part of it. And if I can piggyback on the question a little bit, one part of your mantras, John, that you've been saying for years about how important it is for us to all build up banking relationships, I think right now is a real zenith of reality for how important it is to really work with local banks.
Yeah.
I work with a couple of really great local banks, smaller sized, for virtually all of my stuff. And the fact that quite a number have reached out in advance. Sometimes it's been individual reach out, sometimes it's a bulk email from the office indicating here's what we're willing to do. They all have enough experience. They have the Lehman Brothers 2008 script, probably pretty close to the front of their brains. And so they're like, let's not go down that road. We don't want to own anything.
Right.
And so the offers have been not a bad starting point. I mean, I don't mean to overstep bounds, but we're seeing interest only for 3 months, or full deferrals for sometimes 2 or 3 months to us. And then that gives us the ability to extend that down the path to our users, our operators and tenants and so forth. So no one knows what things are going to look like in 2 to 3 months, but better to know that at least there's this potential relief in the here and now and so forth. And
Sure. I mean, if we can all pause this for 2 or 3 months, meaning not be in any worse position in 3 months than we are today, we're ahead of it. And I agree with you. I had a relationship with Bank of Georgetown for many years.
Yeah, they were great.
A lender, and they got swallowed up by United Bank.
Not so
and
good.
honestly, United Bank has been very good. And when all this kind of hit, and I saw the events planning business not being able to pay, I saw the restaurant struggling, I saw another real estate firm struggling. As you said, I reached out to them, and I was pleasantly surprised at their response. He said, "Listen, let's suspend it for 3 months. We'll add it to the back of your loan." And so when it all washes out, yes, it's very painful, and I'm still losing money per se, but it at least allows me to take a breath and focus in on trying to help these tenants and trying to stabilize the asset. And I've been pleasantly surprised too, versus my corporate checking is with Wells Fargo, and they haven't been as open and willing to work. And just because of the bureaucracy of that big of bank, I mean, the time and energy it takes them to make a decision is crazy. So yeah, I'm thankful that some of my core holdings, if you will, are working with more local banks where we can at least talk to somebody and walk it through.
Amen. Amen. I heard a statistic that through the SBA programs that are out there for lenders, banks to go and get funds. I heard a statistic that Bank of America already gobbled up something like 1 billion through their various applications and whatever the process is. Last year and till refi action to try to have some liquidity for upcoming deals, which I think I have. And if the right site came up, I wouldn't say no necessarily. My little niche of trying to find these small commercials or mixed use commercials that are in terrible shape, I'm hoping that the stuff that's in the worst shape will be less desirable for many others, and stuff I like will still be maybe out there.
Right. And I think that's the right strategy. I mean, again, it's going to last for years, right? The effects of this are going to last for a while, but as far as us kind of getting back to work and having a more normalcy into our day-to-day lives, what's the real estate market going to look like? And I've been doing this now for a while, that I try not to worry about the worst case scenario. And I also don't look at the most rosy predictions, because it always falls somewhere kind of in the middle, where I think we're going to have some hurt. But hopefully with the economy kind of trying to come back a little bit, and all the money that's being pumped into this economy, that we'll be able to have some opportunity. So Margaret, your thoughts on if we come out of this thing kind of in summer, we're going to kind of have a delayed spring market. Is that kind of what Compass is thinking, that as we kind of come back online a little bit? Certainly it's not going to be normal, but more sellers will put their houses on the market and people will feel a little more comfortable maybe getting out there a little bit. Is that kind of what Compass is kind of seeing for the real estate market, or are they just
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, home is very important. In fact, it's like the most important thing right now. Where are you all? You're in your home. So you really realize and appreciate what you have. Or then if you don't have something, maybe you're in a multifamily with a lot of people and maybe you want to be in a boutique building or a single family now.
Right.
So I think there will be a pent-up demand, like I said. I think, to step out my expertise, I think residential real estate will be fine, but I'm thinking commercial real estate, do we need this office space? anymore. I mean, we're doing such a good job virtually. So why are we spending, all this money to have, this huge office on 14th Street in Logan? So I don't know. I do believe that, home is very important. And it's always,
and that's the thing that comes out of these things, is that there are going to be some changes. I wish I was smarter to let you all know what those changes were. But I do think we do have some changes coming. But again, if I can just stress to everyone that's hearing these folks, and kind of the same message, is that be open for business, be open for opportunity. Try not to panic. Understand that we are going to go through a little bit of time here, and we're already going through it. And I'm sure a lot of you that maybe have been laid off or been furloughed or commission sales type business like we all are. These are not maybe our record months, but we're still, trying to keep the doors open, trying to look for opportunities, and working on the things that we already have in our pipeline. That's the other thing I think, kind of ending this up, that a lot of folks aren't maybe understanding, is that just because we turn the switch back on, just because we say, okay, now it's okay to go outside of our houses, it takes a while for all of us to ramp back up. I mean, my business is predicated on pipeline. So if I'm not buying anything now, come September, October, I don't have a lot to show for that. So it's going to take me a while. I'm still looking for opportunities too, but I'm careful. I do remember 08, 09. I remember some projects we bought in 09 that were not great deals, to tell you honestly. We thought they were, but by the time we got to the end of it, we didn't make a lot of money because the market was still kind of pricing out, kind of adjusting. So again, you have to just kind of walk through this a little bit slow and see where we all takes us. But anybody have any final thoughts? I really appreciate you guys joining us. I hope those of you that are watching it got a little bit of insight, got a few takeaways from this. Again, thoughts are out there. So you guys joining us. I hope those got a little bit of insight.
I was just thinking one last thought, because I do coaching and a lot of, kind of self-development as an entrepreneur. So for the last, it feels like longer, but it's probably 2 years, I've been really working on my P&L and really honing in on the finances, understanding as an entrepreneur, what do I need? What do I not need? And I was kind of doing the work all along. Specifically, the last 6 months, I was really getting skinny. So I feel like that work is good to do for an entrepreneur who's running their own business, is to know your numbers. What can you get rid of? What can you get lean in? And, where do you need to not get lean in? Because this is the good time to get good at stuff. So you're having more time, some more space and more creative energy to put into your business. And, don't skimp out on, things like, marketing, virtual, video, and video is very important. So anyway, sorry.
No, that's great. Norm?
I would say almost the same version where I made the decision. I may be very behind the curve, but last year I brought in a keeping firm to run this keeping track of stuff, and we're still at the tail end of that conversion to taking a bunch off my desk. But now I'm getting a chance to really finish that and catch up and get it to a point of really feeling like, okay, I don't have to there's one thing to hand it off to somebody, but you're still looking over their shoulder. And then there's the next step of actually, okay, you're doing it now.
Right.
And so I'm having a chance to really catch up, and DC and I assume Maryland, Virginia are doing some pretty helpful concessions on delays on when things are due.
Sure.
For those of us that have commercial property, they're just complicated reports that are due every year. The idea that those are not due the same day your taxes are due has been a way to, it fits in with, I think, John, you put a message out a couple of weeks back about be scheduled and regular and disciplined still. Don't slip into reruns and sweatpants. Like it's worth.
Right. Well, again, to kind of wrap this up, the silver lining to all this is we're all, and we're hearing this and it gets tiresome, but we are all going through a lot of the same things. And the people in power, whether it's our mortgage companies, they have power over us, or our renters or our suppliers, whoever it is, we're all going through the kind of the same the same exercise here. So if we all don't work together, we're all going down. and if we do work together a little bit and we kind of walk through, I always say walk through it slowly because it feels slow, right? We're anxious to get to June to kind of get going again, but it takes time. And if we do walk through it kind of together a little bit, I think we can all make it through. But it's a very unknown time. So again, thank you for joining us. This is our April meeting. Again, feel free to throw us some questions and we'll be happy to circle back to those. Everyone stay safe and let us know how we can help you. I appreciate everybody here on the panel kind of helped me out this week and this month, I should say. And we will talk with you soon. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, John. Be well.
Thank you.
All right, we are back again. Thanks so much for joining us. If you have a question for myself or any of the panelists, go ahead and submit that. As we wait for a few of those questions to come in, I do want to answer a few questions that came into my personal email and also on my text. I'm going to start with the investor, and it's a broad question, but it's something that I've been hearing for the last few weeks, and it's simply, is it a good time to buy? You heard Dominic talk a little bit about this. And the question about buying right now, again, it depends on a little bit on your exit strategy. You buy, renovate, and sellers out there. The main thing that you really have to concern yourself with, obviously, is what is the value of that property once you finish your renovation. So you might want to be a little conservative in that, factor in maybe a little bit of a discount, and also have multiple exit strategies. As I mentioned on the property profile this month, it's good to be buying properties right now that if for some reason you cannot sell it, let's say the market does fall a little bit and the margins are a little tight, you still have the ability to rent it. I do believe that will limit your risk, obviously. So now you rent the property, you wait this out for a few years, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it may or may not be, and then you go ahead and sell that property then. So if you're out buying, looking to renovate and sell, I would be a little bit cautious, conservative on the values, and make sure that you have double exit strategies. Something else that I heard too that, gosh, we could spend the next, hour and a half on. Thanks, Billy, for that. Thanks for some of you, Dwayne. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Another question that I got to is about, from a landlord perspective, those of you that are landlords out there, or let's say those of you homeowners, thank you, Linda, appreciate it, is as far as delaying your mortgage payments. Some of you have heard that if you call your bank, depending on the bank that your mortgage is with, that you can enter into a forbearance agreement. In other words, not pay your rent for the next 90 days, say April, May, and June. The key thing there, that may not be a bad strategy. You landlords are not receiving rent, either commercial or residential, or some folks that maybe some of their income is short, so you're having a little trouble paying your mortgage. And that is fine to do. Just make sure, this is the advice I have for you, is make sure that you talk to your bank on how that money is going to be paid back. So, honestly, if you delay that mortgage payment, all of a sudden July 1st comes around, and not only do you owe July 1st payment, but you owe 3 months of back payments, that can put some real hurt on you. So make sure you talk to the bank, you communicate with them, and find out exactly how that money is going to be paid back. If they just add it to your loan at the end of your term, let's say you have 10 years more to pay on your mortgage, and they add that on to your term, there's really no reason why you wouldn't delay that. Interest is accruing, but that's okay. Gives you a breather, gives you time to generate some more income, maybe gives you time for your tenants to get back to work and generate rent. So if you have questions around this banking and these forbearance agreements, make sure you reach out to me, send me an email or text. Be happy to talk through that with you. We really got to be communicating with our banks to make sure that we don't put ourselves in worse position than we might be in today. Russell Burden, name from the past. Good to hear from you. Here's the question for you folks out there to consider. How many seasoned investors think a year from now the value of houses in DMV will be less than the prices in 2009? If you're still with us, you want to chime in on that, it's great. Charlie said will not correct that much. Charlie, I tend to agree with you wholeheartedly. I do not see that happening. And if it does, we should be, Russell, we should be raising as much capital as we can to be buying into some of those houses. Rents will really work on a lot of houses if prices literally go down, 10, 12 years on what they were in 2009. I do not believe that's happening. Why do I not believe that? And again, nobody has a crystal ball. The challenge with this pandemic is we don't have any history per se, unless we go back, I guess, to the 1918 Spanish flu, which most of us weren't around then. But if you look at past disruptions in the real estate market, um, there's some clues here. Number one, interest rates are going to be low for the foreseeable future. Our inventory here in the Washington, D.C. metro area was historically low. In other words, supply and demand. And our prices, sure, they might level. I don't think they're going to continue to rise because people can't afford them, certainly with people out of jobs. But I do think that we'll be okay around here. Now, let's go the reverse. How can this turn on us? Again, from an economic standpoint, look macro, not in our own little economies or little micro economies, but macro. Certainly, people are losing a lot of jobs, and that is scary. Our hope is as the economies move back up, okay, as the economy opens back up, that a lot of these people be rehired. Certainly, it won't be 100% rehiring right away. It's going to take time. A lot of economists, if you start reading their views, think it's going to be a year to 18 months to get back anywhere near where we were, let's say, in February of 2020. So it's going to take some time. And those jobs, that causes a lot of pain in the economy, and people might not be as open to buying houses. You heard from Margaret, though. You heard her experiences. I talked to another investor today in Northern Virginia. They are having, in some cases, multiple offers. In some other cases, their houses are taking a little bit longer to sell. So the crystal ball is hard to predict. We don't know. But I don't believe we're going to totally crater back to 2009. If we do, certainly we should be putting some capital together. And I talked about that last month, about raising private capital and taking advantage of some of these price corrections. Another that kind of feeds into this last question. These are broad questions that I received, but I received them so many times I kind of jotted them down. And that I wish I knew the answer to this next one, and that's what we just talked about, is where do values go? Now, again, let's talk a little bit more about that. Values in this real estate market, a lot of sellers that do not have to sell, according to MLS statistics and other realtors that I've talked to, are taking their houses off the market. They're pausing like the rest of the economy. They're taking their houses literally off the market. And as we open up the economy again, and as things became, quote unquote, a little bit more normal, they'll be putting those houses back in the market. We talked to Margaret about a delayed spring market. I do believe that is very, very possible. So who knows where these values go? You can kind of make an argument for both ways. But if you really look at a lot of opinions from a lot of economists, a lot of folks believe that we will be okay. And again, also have to remember it's going to be regionalized, right? And highly tourist destinations that are counting on tourism, are counting on hospitality, are event driven. Those economies are going to be hurt more. Washington, D.C., we've said this many times, we are still surrounded by the federal government, which does pump a lot of money into this local economy. So in theory, hopefully we'll be okay. Mark Barron, if you do have a 3-month delay on Fannie or Mae or mortgage payment, then he just kind of quit. Mark, you want to add to that, that'd be great. But I think the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are just adding on to the end of the term. But again, you have to check that with your local bank. You do not want to be put back in a position where in 3 months from now, you not only owe that 4th month, but you owe that 3 months. Talk to them now, negotiate it now, understand your options now, and that will make the pain a little less. I do believe from investors, okay, here we go. Mark, you may be able to have another transaction. You may not be able to have another transaction for 2 years. So again, Mark is a lender. It's good to network with folks like Mark to get the insights on what he's hearing. I don't know if all those regulations are necessarily in place right now, and I think it's a fast-changing world, so we have to be on top of that and to make sure. Mark's comment, check with your bank about credit ramifications. Absolutely. In theory, what they're saying is that you will not be reported to the credit agencies. You will not be being required to pay late fees. So I think checking with your bank is going to make all the difference in the world. I hope this was beneficial to all of you. I think hearing from firsthand from people that are on the front lines is invaluable. I know if you're like me, you do a lot of reading, either online or magazines and newspapers and different blogs and different podcasts and different things, and you're going to get yeah, opinions all over the place. You have to kind of wrap your head around some of these things and figure out what the best course of action is for you. I have learned through, Resolution Trust when I first started in the business, 9/11, certainly 2008, and now going through this. A lot of times the most dire predictions do not come true. The most rosy predictions do not come true. In other words, everything's going to be, great in June. Don't come true. It falls somewhere in the middle where this is going to be take us a little bit longer than we hoped. It's going to be a little slower recovery than we hope. It's not going to be what we call a V-shaped recovery. It's going to be more of a U-shape. We're going to have to prepare ourselves to weather a little bit of a contraction, and then hopefully we'll get back on track and we can all go about our business. Dwayne Lett, question. I'm trying to refi a rental and my bank is saying no. Are there other institutions I can look into that isn't hard money? Or is there some ways I can value to the property? I guess add value to the property. Dwayne, what my best opinion there for you is to network and to talk to a couple mortgage brokers. Mark Barron with our group might be able to help you out there. If you text me or email me, I can certainly pass along his number to you. But just for whatever reason, I don't know why your bank went refi a rental, but you do need to network out with those. Again, a lot of you have my cell phone, it's 301-943-5535. Feel free to text me. I can put you in touch with people that can answer some of those questions. Belinda, does forbearance extend to investment properties? Yes, there are banks that are allowing you to delay your mortgage payment for up to 3 months, at this point, up to 3 months. And again, check with them. Check with them as far as how you're going to repay that money back. They might add it to the balance of your term of your loan. Because folks, let's face it, a lot of tenants don't have the ability to pay right now. They're out of jobs. They don't have income, so they can't pay you. And then if you can't pay your mortgage company, you can see how this thing can cascade out. And Russell's prediction of 2009 prices might come true. But if the banks are willing to work with you, if you're willing to work with your tenants a little bit, we can quote unquote pause this economy for a little while, not too long, but for a little while. Where hopefully by the time it reopens, all of us won't be in too bad a dire predicament to go ahead and generate some new business and get going, get moving on. So, Belinda, definitely check with your bank about your investment properties. They ask for pretty minimal paperwork right now, and they're trying to work with us. Folks, they saw what happened in 2008. They saw that the banks took all these properties back. I don't think they want to repeat that. I think they're a little bit more willing to work with us and try to walk us all through this period of time. Again, so I hope all of this has helped you. Hope learning from your local members. We are here. As I said, we're saying yes to opportunities. We're looking at properties. I spent a lot of time on the phone and email trying to help some folks out. Believe it or not, that helps me out a lot too. I said last month that I truly, truly believe this. The biggest challenge of this is the mental aspect, making sure that we are not getting lethargic, that we're not, waking up at 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, rolling over, having lunch, watching a movie, feeling bad about ourselves, and going to bed at 7 o'clock after another Netflix show. We need to maintain our schedules. We need to keep working, keep learning. Great time. I know a lot of you have been reading a lot, listening to podcasts. Great time for that because we're going to come out of this. You're already seeing signs of that in different parts of the country. The DMV area, certainly we're kind of spiking right now. And hopefully as we walk through that, we'll open up the economy and the real estate market will go on and we'll all be in good position. You see that on the screen. If I can help you out in any way, let me know. Folks, I've enjoyed this. I hope you have too. I know we have a few technical difficulties. That's more on me than anybody else, but we're getting a little better at it. And hopefully you've learned a few things today. Be in touch with people in our network and our members. Let me know if I can connect you with anybody It does help us all to be stay connected. And if you need anything, as I saw a few comments tonight, if you need things, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to put you in touch with people that can assist you and help you and answer questions as we walk all through this pandemic. So again, good evening. Great to be with you. I'm looking forward. I'm lonely. I miss seeing y'all, and I hope y'all are doing well. And thanks again for joining us. We will see you soon from Profitable Property. And take care, and we'll see you soon.